Today, I have a B1 English listening practice for you so you can practice and improve your listening skills of real English. You'll listen to me read a story and you need to fill in the missing words. Welcome back to JForrest English. Of course, I'm Jennifer. Now let's get started.
Anna had always dreamed of adventure. Stuck in her corporate job in Canada, her days felt a little mundane. One evening, on a whim, she booked a flight to Tokyo. It would be her first solo trip abroad. How'd you do with those missing words? Her days felt a little, did you get this one? A little mundane. Mundane. This is an adjective. Here it describes her days as being very ordinary and therefore not interesting. So you can think of it like boring. For example, doing laundry and washing dishes are just part of my mundane Sunday routine. So it's very ordinary, therefore not interesting. Or maybe you're thinking learning English felt a little mundane until I found Jennifer's channel. Hopefully you're thinking that. If you are, put that's right, put that's right in the comments. Now, did you get that next phrase? There were 3 missing words. One evening, on a whim, on a whim. She booked a flight to Tokyo. I love this expression because it describes my personality. To do something on a whim, whim. This is an idiom. It means to do something without a lot of thought or planning. So it's more based on emotion and feeling. Perhaps spontaneously is another word choice. You could say, I quit my job on a whim. Maybe this one isn't the most positive because you just had this feeling like you don't like your job, and without thinking about it, you quit on a whim. The next missing word, a very useful word to have in your vocabulary, it would be her first, did you get this one? Solo, solo, her first solo trip abroad. This is also another important word. This can be used as both an adjective or adverb. It basically means alone without companions. So someone could ask you, are you giving the presentation solo? It means alone. Don't worry about taking notes because I summarize everything in a free lesson PDF. You can find the link in the description. Let's continue with the story and I'll still test your listening skills. The moment she landed, she was hit with neon lights, unfamiliar chatter, and the scent of sizzling street food. On her second day, wandering a quiet back street, she realized she was lost. Her phone was dead, no GPS, no translator, just her and the city. Did you get that first phrase? She was hit with neon lights. To be hit with something, this is figurative. It means to suddenly or forcefully experience something. When I was thinking of an example sentence for this, the first thing I thought of was Subway, the restaurant Subway, because whenever I walk into Subway, even if I just walk by, I don't even enter the store, but whenever I walk into Subway, I'm hit with the smell of fresh bread. Now, the next one, the scent of, did you get this? Sizzling street food. That's fun to say. Repeat after me. Sizzling. Sizzling. This is an adjective. It represents the sound or action of cooking food, often at a high temperature. So if you put meat on a very hot pan with oil, you'll hear that crackling noise. That would be sizzling, the sound. Listen to this example. Careful, the pan is sizzling. In this case, it's saying careful, the pan is extremely hot. Because if something is sizzling, it means it's cooking at a high temperature. Now, the next missing word, on her second day, another activity I love, wandering a quiet back street. Did you get this one? To wander, wander. This means to move aimlessly or without a clear direction, often in a leisurely or explorative way. So you're exploring. For example, I spent the afternoon wandering through the farmer's market. This is basically what I do on weekends. I go outside and I just wander around and see what happens, and I do things on a whim. Now, notice that pronunciation, wander. Don't confuse this with wonder, wonder. So repeat after me. Wander, wonder. Let's review them both together. I wondered about the cost of the items as I wandered through the market. Our next missing words, her phone was dead. Maybe you know this one. To be dead. Here, dead is an adjective. It describes the item. The verb is the verb to be. Of course, this means no longer functioning or powered. So you could say, my phone was dead, so I couldn't call an Uber. So you take your verb to be and you conjugate it, in this case, the past simple. Now you can also use the verb to die as the active verb with the same meaning. My phone died, so I couldn't call an Uber. Let's keep reading the story and testing your listening skills as well. Panic bubbled up, but before she could spiral, an elderly woman approached. Summoning all her courage, Anna smiled and said, "Train station?" The woman chuckled warmly and motioned for her to follow. Did you get that first phrasal verb? Panic bubbled up. To bubble up, this is when emotions or feelings emerge suddenly and intensify. So you could use this in a positive way. In the story, it's in a negative way. The feeling of panic emerged and intensified. It bubbled up. But positively, a feeling of excitement bubbled up as the concert started. Now, continuing with our story, panic bubbled up, but before she could, did you get this one? Spiral, spiral. So to spiral. This means before negative emotions can escalate, which means become worse. And also before they can get out of control. So for example, a teacher or a friend could say to you, don't let one mistake make you spiral. If a mistake makes you spiral, it means you think negatively about that mistake, and then you think even more negatively and more and more and more until you're just very depressed. So don't let one mistake make you spiral. Now the next one. Summoning all her courage. So to summon, this means to gather, so you can summon people. For example, the boss summoned the employees, told them to come into one area, so to gather, to collect, or to call forth. Now in this case, you're not summoning people, you're summoning an emotion. So you're bringing that emotion forth, you're calling it forth. For example, this will apply to you. I had to summon my courage before signing up for a public speaking class. The next missing word, the woman chuckled warmly. This is a more natural chuckle, what I did after I pretended to chuckle. So to chuckle, this is to laugh softly. For example, she chuckled at his joke. She laughed softly. Now let's keep going and test your listening skills. They weaved through alleys lined with cherry blossoms and tiny shops for 15 minutes. Finally, the station appeared. The woman nodded, and Anna, heart swelling with gratitude, bowed respectfully. They weaved through alleys. So to weave in this context through streets means to move in and out of an area, often to avoid obstacles. So if there is an alley, which is another word for street, and there are shops, people, dogs, other items, you go and then you avoid them. So you walk like this, or drive like this, ride your bike like this. For example, she weaved through the crowded mall. So she had to walk like this to avoid the people. Now notice that pronunciation, weave, eve, weave. Don't confuse this with wave. Wave. So let's combine these together. I had to weave through the crowd just to wave goodbye to her. Now notice I included wave goodbye because wave is used for both hello and goodbye. So sometimes we say, I waved hello, but I guess you didn't see me. Or I waved goodbye, just to let you know what type of wave it is. Now the woman nodded. So to nod, notice that pronunciation in the past simple, nodded. To nod, this is of course to move the head up and down. This can be used to signal agreement, acknowledgement, or even as a greeting, as a way to say hello to someone. So for example, he nodded in approval as he read her resume. This is a very interesting body language signal to pay attention to. If you're having a conversation with someone, if you're in an interview or a first date, and the other person is nodding, that's a really great sign. The next missing word, and Anna, heart, swelling with gratitude. So to swell, this means to grow in size or intensity. This is very commonly used as the adjective form. So to be swollen, swollen. I could say my fingers are swollen from the heat, so they swelled because of the heat. My fingers are swollen from the heat, so I can't get my ring off, which often happens to me. Our final part of the story, that moment of such kindness from a stranger left a mark on her. By the time she returned home, she wasn't the same. She held her head high, spoke with more ease, and embraced the unfamiliar. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find your way. How'd you do with the listening exercise? That moment of such kindness from a stranger left a mark on her. So the idiom is to leave. Our verb is to leave, and in the story it was conjugated in the past simple, left. To leave a mark on someone means to have a lasting effect or influence on someone, and this can be emotionally or psychologically. For example, I'm sure all of us have been touched by a teacher, maybe from our childhood. My teacher's words of encouragement left a mark on me. So she encouraged me when I was 10 years old, and as an adult, I still remember her words. The next missing word, she held her head high. So to hold one's head high, her head high, this is an idiom. It means to walk with confidence and pride, often while facing challenges. Because when we don't feel confident or we're disappointed, our body language naturally goes inward. So to hold your head high is a sign of confidence. For example, even though she lost the match, so she's disappointed. She lost the match. This is what people generally look like. She held her head high and congratulated the winner. Great job, great job. Now, don't confuse this with a similar idiom, which is to keep one's chin up. This is also an idiom, but this means to stay positive or remain hopeful or stay strong in difficult or challenging situations. For example, losing your job is difficult, but keep your chin up. Remain positive. The next missing word, sometimes you have to lose yourself to find your way. To lose oneself, this is figurative. Of course, if you lose your keys, you don't know where your keys are. That's literal. But in this story, it means you have to let go, release your current self, maybe say goodbye to your current self or a situation in order to discover something new about yourself. So Anna had to let go of her mundane life in order to find her confidence and find more excitement in her life. For example, traveling abroad is a great way to lose yourself. Now, don't confuse this with loose, which means not tight-fitting. It can also mean not firmly held in place. So I could look at a light fixture on the wall and say, oh, it's loose. It's not firmly held, so someone has to tighten the screw. But I would also describe this and say, my sweater is too loose, my shirt is too loose. Now, the pronunciation here, lose. That's the opposite of win, of course, or it's unable to find or locate. Don't lose your phone. Now I'll read the story in full from start to finish, and you can focus on my pronunciation. Anna had always dreamed of adventure. Stuck in her corporate job in Canada, her days felt a little mundane. One evening, on a whim, she booked a flight to Tokyo. It would be her first solo trip abroad. The moment she landed, she was hit with neon lights, unfamiliar chatter, and the scent of sizzling street food. On her second day, wandering a quiet back street, she realized she was lost. Her phone was dead. No GPS, no translator, just her and the city. Panic bubbled up, but before she could spiral, an elderly woman approached. Summoning all her courage, Anna smiled and said, "Train station?" The woman chuckled warmly and motioned for her to follow. They weaved through alleys lined with cherry blossoms and tiny shops for 15 minutes. Finally, the station appeared. The woman nodded, and Anna, heart swelling with gratitude, bowed respectfully. That moment of such kindness from a stranger left a mark on her. By the time she returned home, she wasn't the same. She held her head high, spoke with more ease, and embraced the unfamiliar. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find your way. Amazing job! Do you want to keep learning English with story? If you do, put yes, put yes in the comments below. And of course, make sure you like this lesson, share it with your friends, and subscribe so you're notified every time I post a new lesson. And you can get this free speaking guide where I share 6 tips on how to speak English fluently and confidently. You can click here to download it or look for the link in the description. And here's another lesson I know you'll love. Watch it now.